In its work with subaltern communities across the globe, the culture-centered approach emphasizes the role of the field. I want to spend some time today talking about the field, what it means to understand the field, to engage with the field, and then to bring back the field in the work that we do, both in terms of the work of culture-centered scholars as activists, as well as in our work theoretically in terms of the contributions to knowledge as we understand it within the context of journal articles, books, and other metrics of academic publication. The field, when engaging with subaltern communities in conversation, is a site of disruption. It's a site of disruption in terms of creating entry points into bodies of knowledge that have had long histories and yet have historically been erased by the dominant structures of knowledge production which we inhabit. In this sense, then, the field is a space for learning, and in this sense, subaltern communities in the field are our teachers. For the culture-centered approach, it is important for us to remember that the field is a site that needs to be treated with respect, to be given its dignity, and to be given a space for articulating its own voices. Holding the field as a sacred space turns subaltern communities as teachers, as legitimate producers of knowledge. The question then is not anymore whether the subaltern can speak, but registering that the subaltern can indeed speak becomes a way for working through in projects of social change, in disrupting the ways in which traditional structures of knowledge production have worked precisely to erase subaltern knowledge. Coming back then to the question of theory and engagement with theory as we understand it within the structures of academic knowledge production such as books and journal articles. The culture-centered approach broadly outlines the method for indeed disrupting these traditional bodies of knowledge production and mechanisms of knowledge production. Having said that, the disruptions that take place within these bodies of knowledge production have also to be tied to the notion of engagement with the field. In other words, without bringing the subaltern voices in conversation, without engaging the subaltern voices as sources of knowledge, the act of deconstruction remains incomplete. As a social scientist engage in processes of communicating with, conversing with subaltern knowledge, it is not enough for one to stay in the archives. It is not enough for one to simply conduct literature reviews or engage with the literature. It is not enough for one to simply engage the post-colonial and subaltern studies theorists in the high tower of the academe, but rather it is imperative to go back to the field. So in that sense, the very act of theorizing has to be unsettled by this process of continual going back and forth with the field, with subaltern communities in the field being the anchors for the articulations that we participate in, for the dialogic commentaries that we make, or for the observations that we put forth. The reading of the text as deconstruction, or the reading of the text for eraser, has to then continually come back into conversation with what it is in terms of engaging with the possibilities of imagination, possibilities of hope, as understood through the participation of subaltern communities in dialogue within these spaces. In wrapping up then, I want to highlight what this means for the culture-centered approach to engage with the field. The field is a site that is not simply a site of activism for academic work, but it fundamentally is a site for theoretical production. And this very act of theoretical production itself then becomes a form of activism.